Before I booked my flight, I told myself Australia wouldn't be a huge shock. They speak English, right? Big cities, tech, highways, how different could it be? But the moment the plane's doors opened in Sydney, I realized how wrong I was. Back home in the US, I was used to airports that feel like battlegrounds, impatient crowds, TSA barking instructions, stressed families juggling luggage. Sydney Airport felt like stepping into another world. There was a calm hum instead of shouting. The air smelled faintly of salt and eucalyptus, not stale coffee and fuel. Customs officers actually smiled and asked about my trip. One of them even cracked a small joke about the weight of my suitcase. I remember laughing nervously, waiting for some stern warning that never came. Even my first Uber driver set the tone. He hopped out, helped me with bags, and before we left said, "Welcome to Australia, mate. You're safe now, relax." It sounds small, but as an American, I'm not used to strangers instantly trying to make me comfortable. We talked about the beaches, the coffee culture, and even local slang. That 20-minute ride felt more like meeting a distant cousin than a taxi service. Stepping outside was another hit of culture shock: wide blue sky, bright sun, palm trees, and modern city lines all at once. Sydney felt alive but not frantic. People strolled. They weren't power walking with headphones on. Drivers weren't leaning on horns. It was like the whole city had taken a deep breath and stayed in it. As I settled in, the little differences started jumping out. In America, coffee is usually quick drive-through, paper cup, rush to work. In Australia, coffee is almost sacred. Tiny cafes everywhere with baristas who know your name after a few visits. The first time someone remembered my flat white order and asked how I was settling in, I felt seen in a way that was new. Supermarkets felt familiar but also strange. You bag your own groceries, no clerk rushing or tossing things carelessly. People wait patiently, smile, and say cheers instead of thanks. Tap water is safe everywhere, so people refill bottles at fountains, something I'd avoid back home. Even small shops close earlier. There's this unspoken rule that life doesn't revolve around 24/7 consumption. Kindness appeared constantly in tiny ways. One day in a Sydney park, I left my backpack while taking photos. In New York, that's asking for trouble. Here, two teenagers sprinted up, slightly out of breath, holding my bag. "Mate, you left this." They waved off my attempt to tip them and jogged away laughing. Another time, I fumbled with my transit card at the ferry. A stranger tapped his own card to let me through and just said, "No worries," disappearing before I could even thank him. And the pace slower, but not lazy. Just enough space to breathe. People didn't hover or stare. I didn't feel that guarded bubble I carried in US cities, where you're polite but also defensive. In the US, safety is something you manage: hold your keys, lock your doors, keep your guard up. Australia slowly erased that instinct. It wasn't overnight, but day after day, small things made me relax. I saw children as young as 7 biking alone on quiet streets. Teens on trains laughing and joking, with phones out and bags unattended, like danger wasn't always lurking. Once, I dozed off on a suburban train with my laptop on my lap. Back home, that would be an invitation for trouble. Here, people just let me sleep. One woman even tapped me awake gently before my stop. Another night in Brisbane, my phone died and my Airbnb was far. I must have looked worried because a couple approached and asked if I needed help. They walked me the whole way, chatting about travel, and didn't leave until they saw me unlock my door. No fear, no suspicion, just human concern. Australians don't pretend crime doesn't exist, but there's this baseline of trust. People lend charges at airports, leave strollers outside cafes, surfboards on beaches. It's subtle but powerful. Coming from the US, where you learn to scan for danger constantly, this felt like emotional exhale. It's more than safety, it's openness. Making friends as an adult in America can feel like a slow game, polite small talk, months before an invite, and even then it can feel formal. Australia flips that. People here seem to skip the guarded steps and go straight to "come hang out." My first weekend in Sydney, I wandered near Bondi Beach, just watching surfers. A guy about my age paddled over, asked if I'd ever tried surfing. When I said no, he laughed, told me to grab a board, and spent the next hour teaching me how to stand up. By the end, he invited me to join his friends for fish and chips. We sat on the sand, laughing about wipeouts like we'd known each other for years. Another time, I went to a cafe alone and ended up chatting with the barista about American coffee sizes. By afternoon, I was at her friend's birthday party, no overthinking, no awkwardness. They teased me for saying restroom instead of toilet, but it was affectionate, not mean. Australians have a direct, teasing humor that can surprise Americans. At first, I worried I was being made fun of. Then I realized it's a sign of acceptance if they tease you, you're in. People are upfront, but also fiercely inclusive. If there's a barbecue, you'll be invited. If there's a camping trip, they'll insist you come. It's casual but deeply welcoming. Nature in Australia isn't something you drive hours to see. It's everywhere. Cities flow into beaches, bushland, and national parks. In the US, nature often feels separate a planned trip, special gear, reservations. Here, it's just life. One Saturday, I joined new friends for a hike near the Blue Mountains. No complicated prep, no panic about safety. We drove out, parked, and within minutes were surrounded by massive eucalyptus trees and the sound of cockatoos. People greeted each other on trails with a simple "G'day." At the lookout, strangers offered to take group photos. When we got lost briefly, a passing hiker stopped, checked our map, and offered extra water. Weekend camping trips are spontaneous. Someone says, "Let's go bush," and within hours you're under stars. That first trip, I worried about snakes and spiders like any American would, but the group patiently explained how to be safe and shared gear. They fed me, taught me to build a fire, and didn't let me wander alone. There's freedom here, but also quiet protection, a belief that if you're part of the group, you won't be left behind. Even in cities, nature blends in. Cockatoos land on balconies, possums peek from trees, and beaches are minutes away. People swim before work, surf at sunrise, and walk barefoot without worry. That closeness to nature changed me. It felt freeing but also safe, like the land itself and the people had your back. Leaving Australia felt heavier than I expected. On my last morning, the family I rented from slipped a handwritten card under my door. "Thanks for being part of our little community. Come back anytime." Next to it was a jar of Vegemite with a smiley face sticker. Simple, but it hit hard. At the airport, my charger died. I sighed and probably looked stressed because a stranger walked over, offered me their charger, and said, "Long flight? You'll need this, mate." Then just smiled and walked away. That's what Australia had taught me: generosity without strings, friendliness without agenda. Flying back to the US, I felt lighter, but also aware of what I'd been carrying for years: constant vigilance, hurry, guardedness. Australia had chipped away at that. Life there felt open, safe, and human in a way I hadn't known I needed. It didn't make me naive, it made me hopeful. And that's why life in Australia feels so different for Americans. It's not just the beaches or the slang or the accents. It's waking up in a place where trust is normal, kindness is casual, and strangers treat you like a neighbor. It's realizing the world doesn't have to be hard to be exciting. If hearing about places like this makes you want to see the world differently and believe in people again, join me. Subscribe and come along for more real culture shock stories and the quiet, powerful kindness that exists everywhere if we just step out and look for it.